Hey guys, this is Frankie, Simply Imaginary People, and this is just a little extra tutorial on converting TS4 clothes to TS3 and how to deal with clothing that has a very high poly count and how to best decimate that without losing some quality. So, this is an awesome mesh by Ellie Simple, but it's not possible to stick it in the Sims 3 game yet because, as you can see here, our poly count is nearly 26,000. Let me just put on my key poser. And Sims needs meshes under 10,000. So we need pretty much more than half this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete the TS4 body mesh because I don't need that. Right, and then I'm going to go to my mesh. Now the first thing you can see is these darker bits are actually because the mesh is solidified. So all I want to do is I'm going to, by pressing L, select pretty much everything that faces the front. Face select. You can select those later. Just hover over faces and press L. You're going to want to select everything that's a light color, so you can see the dark isn't really selected. Don't need to select these extruded bits. No, don't want those. Sometimes it's a bit more difficult because for some reason they always end up really broken. Nope, don't want that. I've already selected one layer there. Just make sure that everywhere has at least one layer of it selected. Well, it should only have one layer selected. Again, don't want the bottom extruded part, but I do want these small edge parts. The buttons and things I can save later. Just want to get the mesh done first. Right, shoulder part to do. Okay, now I've pretty much selected everything once. You can see that there's black parts. That's because there's two layers on those parts, and I don't need them. So all I'm going to do is press P and say Parent by Selection, and then I'm going to press A to see what I've got left here, and select the important bits. So sync on, select the buttons and the clasps, which I didn't have. Okay. I go to object mode and hide that group. You'll see I do have a complete mesh. So what I'm going to do is delete that group. And then I'm going to select my group and say export to wavefront object, and as everything, I call everything test. Make sure selection only, don't bother writing materials, objects as object groups, and go into milkshake. select your entire mesh and say align normals. Take a bit of time. And first we need to flip. So everything that has this light colour, you're now going to select again. So it's always a bit of effort, but it's worth it. Nope. Not those, because those are supposed to be outside layers. That's dark, that's dark, that's dark, that's dark, that's dark, that is, that is, that is, that is, that is. It's all light. Dark, dark, dark. Make sure I have everything, which I don't. Oh, this bit I obviously forgot to select, which is why I now have a hole, which is not good. How annoying. Fix that up in a minute. Okay, if you've selected everything that is dark, then I might as well select these. You can say shading flip direction, and you go now, it'll go light. Already looks a shit ton better, and then I've just got to fix the hole I actually put in it, which you shouldn't do, but I'll just show you how to fix them. So, select that edge, press F. You'll see it actually fills the hole in the texture as well. Oops, didn't want to spell that. Just going to go around and fill up some holes. F, F, F. Okay, so if you have holes on the edges, it actually ends up being quite a problem. You can press like this, fill that one up, and fill that one up. Now this one you can see should actually have 2 dots here, but we're not going to bother fixing this yet because we're going to have that issue later on anyway. So for now, I'm going to bother fixing up this inside bit because you can't see it anyway. We'll fix up all the weirdness later anyway, so good to go. This bit's more difficult, but I'm going to say we're going to fix that later too. Okay, now just do the same thing we're doing. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select A, press Control plus E, and say clear sharp to get rid of all those blue lines. And then I'm going to export this selection again. Delete this. Right, align the normals. And except for that shoulder part, which obviously seems to still be dark, it actually doesn't look that bad. So did we forget the shoulder part? Yes, we did. So let's flip the direction of that too, and then try again. Usually do this mainly so I can see what I haven't flipped. Can theoretically get around some of this by asking the creator for the original mesh. Now you can see we have a nice smooth mesh, and say File. We don't actually need this, but we can see that there was no other black spots. Okay. Right, so this mesh still has a poly count of 14,000, but it no longer has a poly count of 25,000, so let's just count ourselves happy about that. Let's check the poly count of the buttons. I don't like to change buttons and stuff, but it has a poly count of 6k, which is already pretty much the entire mesh on its own. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to decimate this. And I'm just going to write in, I think I want it to be 2,000 maximum, maybe 1,000 likely. It's 1,800, that should work. I mean, the quality is going to go away a bit, obviously, because you're decimating it, but no one's going to be zooming this close into it. I really doubt it. You'll see again we have some dark pieces. I'm just going to select those. They don't seem to be flipped, so that's fine. Okay. So that's about 2,000, which means our entire mesh is allowed to be 8,000 in total-ish. It's actually not the poly count, the triangle count, that's the problem. It's the vert count. So if we check, this has a vert count of 1,000, and this has a vert count of 8,000. So that makes over 9,000 in total. We want to try and stay under 8,500 if possible. So I need to get the vert count of this down a bit. So there are a couple of ways of decimating a mesh. You can either do it in Blender, which gives you a nicer decimate, but it actually is a bit more work, and you can do it in Milkshape. So theoretically in Milkshape here, we could go to Tools, DirectX Mesh Tool, and then I'd take it down. But I'd only take it down about maximum 1,000 a bit, so I'm just going to take it down. Tools, DirectX Mesh Tool. Take it down 1,000. Now it's not even showing up anymore. This is when Milkshape decides it's too much, so we'll just export that. No, not Torso. Oops. It doesn't show your mesh in the decimate tool, it just means that it decided to too high poly. It's probably going to crush me now. Right, reload that. Okay, and now I can do the same thing again. Wait for it to work. Milkshape hates high poly meshes, so half the time you won't be able to do it in Milkshape if it's If it's really too high, like it's just not showing it up, then it might just be too high. But if you want to do it in Milkshape, do it about 1,000 by 1,000. If it looks like weird cake dough, this weird structured kind of look that it's having here, usually just align normals and it goes away. You can see it's literally just 12k and it's already killing my Milkshape. Right, so weird look goes away. You can also model clean. Model cleaning often helps Milkshape remove any unnecessary parts of this, which is a good idea to do even if you're not going to decimate a Milkshape, just to give it a model clean while you're at this stage to get rid of any unnecessary vert faces. It's going to come up with some pop-ups. Press no to anything that pops up. Okay, delete the material, and then usually you can also use the DirectX Mesh tool again. See, it lets me now. So I can, as I said, either do it in milk shape, that's actually sometimes doesn't give the nicest result, and sometimes it's okay, depending on how high poly it is. Right. You don't need to smooth it in between, but I like to look what it's looking like. Right. Now at just under 900. Well, just over 900. So we're going to export this. Right, so let's call this high poly. And these are the buttons. And now I'm going to import my test object. And I'm just going to move it to the side, mainly so that I can, actually, let's not move that one to the side. Let's move this one to the side, because I don't need it anymore. You can see it doesn't look quite as smooth as the original, but it also doesn't look awful. So for this mesh, it actually worked relatively well. So the other thing, oh wait, let's duplicate that one first, and then move it over. So what you can also do is decimate in Blender. So all we're going to do is I'm going to decimate, and we're going to say 0.6. You can see sometimes it looks better, sometimes it looks worse. I'm just going to apply this. I want to show you some errors that pop up. Oops. So what happens a lot of the time when you're decimating in Blender is that your seams won't line up properly. So this is actually a seam line here, which is the shoulder. And you can see that's the seam line by the fact it has 2 verts at that position. Everything else only has 1. And here you can see they line up pretty good. There's a vert here for this vert, they're matching up. But sometimes what can happen, if I can find something, is like here. This vert doesn't have a partner on this side, this vert doesn't have a partner on this side, and this will give you some weird normals. So to fix this, the easiest way to do this is to turn on the magnet tool here and set to vertex. And also turn on the magnet tool here, which it already is, and set this also to vertex. And then what we're going to do is we're going to select this, and we can go, by the way, umschalt is shift. What I can do is I can grab this, press G, and I can move it, and I can snap it to this vert. But what I want to do while I'm doing this is show you something. For that I need the texture. So just going to go to Cycles Render and give this texture so that I can see what I'm doing. New image, open, test, material. Right. The thing is, if I move this, I stretch the texture at this point, which you can't see very well here, but sometimes what helps is if in Blender Render you turn off sync for a second and you open a UV checker map. So say I select this one and I move it, you can see that the texture is also going weird and the square is no longer looking square. So what I need to do is, so if I'm going to move this down here, this isn't a big shift, so I mean I usually don't correct the texture much, or if you have to move like this little part here, snap it to there. But for example, if I want to move this one up here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, oops, there's 2 of them. Ah yes. It seems that because it was slightly weird at the front and we had some front and some back seams, there's seams like this. So the way to fix this is I'm going to select each part, so I'm going to select this part, and I'm going to say W, remove doubles. So select each single UV part on its own, because if you select multiples, it'll merge them. And just remove the doubles. Some people show you what happens if you do that. Okay, that should do. Now you'll see that didn't work. Which part is this? It's over here. Didn't see these parts. Move doubles. Move doubles. Move doubles. Move doubles. You'll actually see that Ellie Simple is pretty smart to reduce her poly count. You see how the pockets are overlapping the mesh here? She actually deleted the part of the original mesh underneath, which is really smart because that saves you the poly count because you can't even see that area. Right, now back to our issue file. This is now only one vert because we removed the double, not two. So what I would do is I would snap this up here to make it a line. But then I also need to turn off the magnet and move this, and press G and Y, and move it up to kind of match the shape. So here's like it's like a bit higher than this. So that kind of goes up like that. To fix the texture stretch. So I'll show you in Blender Render and Textures. And see, we kind of made the texture look weird here. And now if I move this up here, I slowly straighten out the texture. Can't really see it that well here, but it's true. Right, maybe this. Okay. But the thing is, you literally need to go around and you need to do this along every seam line. So this is a lot of work. I do this pretty much constantly with my meshes because I like the look it gives better. Now here you can see this one has a partner here, and this one just doesn't have a partner, and not even a possible partner. So what I usually do is I'll take this one and I'll snap it up to the top one, and I'll snap it up to this one here as well. And then I like to select this and again remove doubles, and it will remove the one vert so that we kind of merge them together. But you'll need to go along the entire, well, pretty much the entire thing. So along absolutely every single seam line. The problem is if you do this, let's just, oops, turn off the magnet. I duplicate another high poly one. Some people like to remove doubles and then edge split. So let's do that. Decimate. Remove all the doubles from the whole thing, and then we're going to decimate. We're going to do the same thing, 0.6. Right, now we're going to go in here, and you'll realize you pretty much mashed up your entire UV map. That is why I do not remove doubles and then decimate. This way you wouldn't have to fix any seam lines, but you wouldn't have a normal looking mesh. And just to show you what I mean, if I now put the actual original texture on this, it's going to be screwed. You can see all this is stretched, this looks weird. This is pretty much what happens if you do that, because there's no middle line anymore. So we don't do that. See, that one still has a way nicer texture. Okay, so yeah, you can do that. Now if we turn those off. Which one is the one? Oh god, now I'm totally lost. Which one's which? Okay, I think this is the one that came from Milkshake. If you do it in Milkshake, you'll often find that it actually, see, it keeps partners, which is a good feature for Milkshake, and I have actually no idea why Blender doesn't even try to do this. But this way you don't have to fix seams. So Milkshake is more the lazy way to do it, and if it looks good, which, let's add a texture to this. It usually doesn't look too bad, then do this way instead. If you're not pressed for time. Texture's not bad. Okay, me just look at my list of things I wanted to mention. So obviously all these methods that I'm teaching you, you can use for your own mesh. So if you're making a mesh that you just exported from Marvelous Designer and super high poly, you can do absolutely the same thing. That's usually what happens for me. I make it relatively high poly in Marvelous Designer, then I decimate and fix my seams to just get a nicer look. Okay, so there's a couple more tricks I wanted to show you guys. One is if there are, usually helps if you look in Blender and render textures. If there are areas where you think, okay, this doesn't look very straight, these squares, you can select them and go here and say UV minimize stretch. And if you see, I rotate, it tries to straighten it up. Now sometimes this looks good in some areas, sometimes it doesn't because it will move some shadow parts around, and that obviously sometimes just doesn't look that good. Okay, but that's just a general trick. If you end up sculpting a lot and you just want to minimize the stretch on your texture, that works pretty well. Right, last thing is that we've obviously took away the solidness at the beginning, and now we need to make part of it solid again. So I usually try to extrude everything I can. So pretend you've already put the EA, you've already formed this to the EA body. So you'd have to do that step first. I'm just going to import AF body, even though it won't really fit that well. Pretend this, we've made it fit. And the easiest way actually to make it fit is to go into sculpt mode, use add, make the radius pretty high and this pretty low, and just go like this. This is totally cheap. Right, so Frankie has finished cheating, and now this mesh kind of fits the mesh. That bit looks weird, so I'm just going to take this grab tool. Using any of the other tools will split your mesh up a bit. That wasn't very good. Try and move it only forward. You can use things like smooth if it's not near a seam line. I'll show you what happens near an actual seam line in a second. Just want to smooth this. Oh, God. I always forget to put the strings down. There you go. That's what happens if you go too close to a seam line. You split it open. I'm just going to do that because I need to. And then again, go to edit mode. Put on my magnet. And pretty much just sew my seam line back together. You know, cheating. Right, now that I have formed my mesh onto its EA body, I will need to extrude or solidify parts of it. So, this bit, I'm always keeping an eye on my vert count. So my vert count's about 5,000, and these parts, the buttons have 1,000. So that makes me at 6,000. So I've got about 2,000 to play with. Okay, so I want this part solid, so I'm going to say P, parent by selection. The good thing is Milkshape already puts blue lines around everything, another bonus for Milkshape. So I can do this. I can just go to solidify. Make it as thick as I want it. Apply, and then it split and say sharp angles only, and you should be able to select the top bit and not the bottom, which it does do. Now I can also see that it has a different texture, so I'm just going to go to and open the original texture. So this is the back of it, and this is the front of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the front layer, the top layer, and just turn off my my super magnet and move it so it has the correct texture, because I deleted the solid part beforehand. Just wondering why it has holes. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say p parent this, because I don't know why it seems to have holes. Just going to select the top part and see where the holes are. You see there's holes around here. Oh yes, along here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing. Select the edges, press fill. Do fill it up. This here looks like an overlap, which I'll fix in a minute. Let's just fill up all the other holes. Make sure you're pressing F in the 3D window, otherwise I won't do it. Oops. Don't know why it's doing that. Let's fill it differently then. There we go, fill that hole in. Not sure why it's created holes, but it's a good thing about tutorials. You get random issues and then I can teach you a bit more. Fill the last hole. Being weird again. Okay, I think that was pretty much all the holes. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this and select the inside and join it up again. And just going to go around and check out the weird looking parts. Oh, no, didn't want to press that. That's what I meant. So these are actually back faces that are too far in the front. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to press G and I'm just going to move them inside of it to get rid of them. These ones are also back faces facing too far to the front. Again, G, and just sometimes scaling them down helps. Sometimes you can't move the back faces, move the front faces. For some reason that part's not connected. Okay, so that should be attached to there, should be attached to there. Okay, I'm literally just going to fix the parts that I can see from where I am, because that's the only things you're going to be able to see in game anyway, so. Turn off the magnet again. Okay, got some fixing at the back to do, and then that should be it. Now these ones I won't be able to see, so I can just say delete faces because I can't see the inside layer of this part anyway. I'll be doing that in a minute anyway. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select the inside layer, which means I'm just going to parent the top layer again, and I'm going to go around and see this part of the inside layer is at the bottom. I can see it here, but the back here I can't see that much of it. So like this middle section, I select it and then I go around and see if I can see it anywhere. These bits are clipping through, so that's fine, but I can't see it. I can see it a bit there, so maybe not that far forward. I can also use shift and press control on the bits I can see just to unselect those. I mean, no one's going to be looking under his shoulder that much. And then I can just say delete faces. Most of the clipping is now also gone. Right, so I can just regroup these and then regroup it with the entire mesh. You can see it now looks a lot neater already. Perfect. And we're only at 5.8. So what a bit we can do. Now these bits were solid too, so this. That's how many verts? 135, that's really not bad. Parent those. Go to that. Solidify. Change my thickness again to whatever I want it. Apply. Edge split. Sharp edges. Apply. And then again go to Blender Render on this and open the actual image. See, this is all a little bit more work than a low poly. Right, so I'm going to select these top layers again, and I'm going to move them to down here where they should be. Voila. Now I can join this up again. Cycled render so I can actually see, and you'll see we're at 6,100. Right, so the only bits we need to do now are to fix up all the other gaps. So, also what you can do if you feel like it is you can move, wrong one. You can say, select this button and move it down so it's just a little bit more over the black area. Just to fix up a bit of the movement that happened. And then, obviously, we'll take these parts and just do that so I can see it again. And just move them forward. And possibly rotate them so they fit over here again. One side done. I always click that so that I select the entire thing and not just the front of it. Awesome. I can join this up again now. Go to edit mode, and then I can object mode, delete that so that it gets actual texture. Right. Now, the only bits I need to do are the arm and to fix that hole that I managed to make. So to fix this hole, I'm going to cheat again. And I'm going to just attempt not to make holes. It would actually be a lot better. Right, I'm going to snap this to here. The snap was working. And then undo the snap and just move this out here. And snap to here. Move it to the correct position. Maybe snap to down here. Move this. Snap that down as well. Don't worry about the shadows at the moment. Snap that down as well. Where's my sleeve? Good. Find the next one. I can't see what I'm doing because of this. I'm just going to press H and it hides it. Saves my life half the time. Snap that one to here. Move it down. These parts are hidden, so I don't care about them. Alt H to unhide again. The only hole I need to fix is this big one here. Or is it clipping? It seems to be clipping. So we'll go to scope mode. Go to add. Or we just do it manually. Okay, unhide. That's all good. Okay, that's an issue. That was one I fixed earlier, so I'm just going to edge split that so that maybe it's only one vert. Nope. Do it this way. Select those edges. Oops. And delete edges. Okay, so I've got those holes again now, but I'll just fix them up the same way. I can actually see what I'm doing. There we go. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one and I'm actually just going to snap it to that one. So, move that way out here. And then I'm going to take this one and snap it to that one. That way out here. And then take this one and snap it down there. And move that to the right position. Fixed my holes. Perfect. Now I need to fill up these holes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to edge select. Edge selecting, no, that's the top rim. That's the bottom rim. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to press E and scale. Oh, there's one, wait. There's one that's inside out here. So let's just, oops. Okay, we need to do it at the top anyway as well. So extrude, scale inward. Oh, I seem to have extruded it before I did that as well. Okay. Sorry. Fridays. Right. Now, do as much as you possibly can with extrude. So we had to solidify these parts, but everything else we're just going to extrude. So this hole also needs to be filled at the top, so I'm just going to extrude, scale inwards, and I'm going to move it down a bit, like this. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to go to texture and say G, Y, and move this up around about as much as I move that down and inward. And then I need to edge split that edge. Select the bottom edge, do the same. E, scale inward. Go like that, G, Y. And then edge split. Done that part, now do the other one. Scale inward, move it up a bit, G, Y, edge split, other side, E, scale, move it downward a bit, G, Y, edge split. Right, finish that. Now the only hole there is pretty much still around the bottom and around the neck. We're now on 7,000 verts, which is not good. Which means we might have to decimate a tiny bit more and blend in milkshake later. Okay. Scale inward. I like to move this upward quite a bit. And same thing, G, Y. If they're on the outsides of the texture, just vert select and move them in a bit. And of course edge split. Right. Last but not least, no, 7,000 is fine because we've already added the buttons in. I thought we'd have forgotten about the buttons. Okay, so that's fine. All I'll do now is this part. So, this part is solid. So, if someone makes it match the body a bit better, which I hope Joke will do when it's further down, that's not going to be a bit that much of the issue. So what I need to extrude is, oops, I like these verts going along here, and then a bit further up. So like this, and then going up here. Take a couple of more with me. Might as well do the whole thing while I'm at it, to be honest. To be on the safe side. Okay, E. Scaling sometimes doesn't work on this, so you might have to just figure out how to best make it work. That works pretty well. I mean, the plan is obviously to make it fit the body a bit better, so you wouldn't have such a big gap here in front of the boobs. But that's not that bad. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to say G, Y, and I'm going to shoot these up to the top, and then I'm going to do them bit by bit. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to say G, Y, and I'm going to go down, and I'm going to here it's very difficult to see. It really helps to go to Blender Render and then GY until you kind of get like a squarish. Stripe textures really are helpful. So for this side part, I'm going to go like this, and I'm going to go inward a good bit, making sure I stay in the area that has texture, and then do the exact same thing, go down there, and edge split. If you edge split properly, you should be able to select this piece without selecting the original it was on. This bit just so oops. I'll go down with that one. One, two, three, four, five. Okay. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, good. That needs to fit properly. And last but not least, this inside part you're not going to see much, but at least it doesn't look like a completely and utterly stretched texture. Right. Good. And we are done. So the last thing I want to do is fix up all the weird shadows that we might have gotten, like here where we fix stuff. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to edit mode and zoom in, and I'm going to press L, and I'm going to select, kind of like we did in the first stage, all the top texture parts. I usually avoid buttons or clips or stuff like that. So make sure you're not selecting any of these bits that you extruded. They should all, if you edge split properly, you can see even the inner arm bits that it doesn't select when you press L. And let's select the top bit. Once selected the whole thing, press P and parent. Then what you can do is you're going to select the bits you did extrude. Oh wait, we did something wrong here. Nope, we just forgot to extrude the inner side bit. So I did this bit wrong. So just delete this. I'm a noob. It's going on my nerves. Just doing that because it stretches them back out to normal size. Because Sims 4 has a weird resolution. I forgot to do the back bit. Just quickly redo that. E, scale inward, go up, and then G, Y. Edge split. Move that in, move that in. And edge split. Right, now I'll select the inner bit. Combine that with nope, that's not what I wanted. Oh, just being an idiot. Okay, fine, whatever. Then I'll select the inside bits if it's letting me do that. Right. Huh. That is incredibly weird. Did I undo something? Did everything doubled? No. Okay. Just hide that group. I'm so confused. That's that. Okay, that's that. That's a whole mesh. That's half a mesh. Okay, we'll take the whole mesh then. Okay, do it again. So, select the outside layer. I don't know why it suddenly duplicated my mesh. It's just weird. Select the entirety of the outside layer. Like that. P parent. Then select all these bits that you extruded. And any inside layers. So that, make sure you don't select the edges. It helps to zoom out. Okay, and then press parent again. Now you're going to do is you're going to press A to select everything. Go to File, Export, Wavefront Object. Make sure Selection Only and Objects as Object Groups is test. Go to Export it as whatever. Obviously don't export it with the same thing. Might be a good idea. Import it. And you'll see it has some kind of funky shading here and some funky seam lines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say select. Okay. So this bit is edges. I don't want to align normals on that. That'll probably look weird. This bit is my main mesh. That's fine. I'm going to select each group singly and say align normals. And you'll see all my wonderful edge seams go away. Unselect, select the next group. That's the head and neck part. That's also good. Align normals. Unselect, select this. It is nothing, so delete it. Select this. It is nothing, so delete it. Select this, which is nothing, so delete it. And now you can regroup it and export it as object again. So usually what I'll do is now you would be pretty much finished. You can see that it made this weird line around here and I don't want that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go into this group and I'm going to make these parts their own mesh. And that way I won't have that issue. So now you could add the body to it, assign bones, continue on from there. So align normals on that to get rid of seam lines. By separating the front and the back parts, I literally don't get weird things. I'll show you what happens. That's empty. Pre-selected that one. Oh no, that one wasn't empty. What's happening? Ugh, I say sometimes. Right. Export. Test, thank you. I forgot to select everything. Right. That's the one I don't want. Align normals on this. Align normals on this. Align normals on this. You see, as I did it separately, I don't get the weird shadows around there. That's empty. 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 Okay. So what would happen now if I say edit, select, edit, select, and regroup? If I'd ever exported it as one group and then decided to align normals, you'll see you get these wonderful, horrible shadows around certain areas which look absolutely horrible. This is why you do it in separate groups. Right. Although now I realize that you can see there's some areas here that still have weird black. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say wireframe overlay, unselect. I'm just going to select that vert there. Make sure in this window I haven't accidentally selected something else. And say align normals. Nope. Nope. I know what the fault was. It's because this bit is actually sewn to this bit. So this bit and this bit actually undo. This inner side, P parent, needs to be as part of the main mesh just because it's attached to the main mesh. Sometimes it takes me a while to figure out which part need to be which groups, but you can see the milkshake really easily by which ones get weird shading. Let's delete all the weird empty groups first. Right, align normals on that. Align normals on that. Align normals on this. Still makes that weird black shading. Then we're just going to have to fix it, aren't we? Go to that, make sure we're not selecting anything else, like over there. If N doesn't work, extended manuals, edit. Seem to be selecting way too many verts. But that's fine. Just hope for the best. Copy the 0.5 into, so this line into the top line, which made no difference, so that wasn't what I needed to do. Copy the 0.5 into the -8 lines. Maybe that will help. A little bit. Ooh, don't crash on me. Ooh, okay. They're not actually joined together, that's the issue. Ugh. Because this is a solidified layer, it's not perfectly matching up with the body of the mesh, because I solidified the insides and the outside. So what I can do is use my handy snap tool, and for the bits I can see at least, snap them together. At least for the front part, the highly visible. Snap. Snap. Up to there is pretty visible. See if this fixed it. Turn off. I only have 4 groups selected, so I don't know why it keeps making these weird empty groups. I know this tutorial is getting very long, but this is just the way it is. I kind of don't plan these things before I make them, so I don't half the time know what's going to happen, because I've never actually worked on this mesh before. No more black shadows, as we can see. Fix that. Okay, now you can edit, select all, regroup, add the body, assign bones, and you're done. So with a bit of effort, using milkshake to decimate. So first delete the solid part, use milkshake to decimate, fix shit like this. Oh yeah, I have to make a line all the way along there. So it's pretty much just requires the same effort of snapping these verts together here. But yeah, so delete the solid layer, and then you need to decimate, well actually you need to take away any small detail parts like buttons, so parent those away. And yeah, pretty much what you're going to have to do is go through it and fix it up. It's a bit more work, but for some reason Sims 4 allows a really high poly count, so there's going to be quite a lot of high poly Sims 4 meshes that need fixing this way. Obviously, if you're making your own mesh, you just need to do the decimate part and fix seams if they need to be fixed. You'll see if seams are not fixed if I show you the one that we made. Show you one I made earlier. Not that. This one with the seam lines aren't matching up now. It's this one. If there are areas where seam lines are not matching up, you will actually see them in, no, this isn't it either. Yes, it is. Okay, I'll show you what happens. If I now export this to a wavefront object, just called test as well. Right, like the other one, you'll see that there are seam lines going, like along the shoulders. Now if I select this and I say vertex align normals, you'll see that you get this weird blinking. These are holes that haven't been, and sometimes you'll see here like the seam line doesn't actually properly go away, and you get all this blinking, and here you can see a bit of seam line. That's because the seams don't line up. So that's why you need to make the seams line up. It's pretty much, otherwise you get that blinking will happen in game, because it'll be like the game looking through the clothing. So yeah, I hope that helps somehow. I'm sorry it's so long.